Hey everybody, Will Fix here. Got another video for you today. Do you have any idea how many ETFs have been applied for the asset XRP and the impact that would have on XRP if all of those ETFs were approved? Wow, well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're also going to explore what's happening with the SWIFT system, how the BRICS nations are trying to counter that with their own currency. We're going to talk a little bit about Trump's reaction to that and how he probably shut it down, and then how stable coins may be the world reserve currency, and XRP's system, the rail system of XRP, XRPL, probably the very system that will undergird the entire financial system. So we'll talk a little bit about numbers and things like that. So let's go ahead. We'll get into that. Here's a decent wallet commercial right now. If you own crypto, you need a self-custody wallet. I've chosen the Decent wallet after owning several different wallets. I believe you will like it too. Use the link in the description. Purchase from my site. It does help support the channel. I appreciate it. Hey, thanks for watching that. By the way, BTCC is a platform. If you see the code that's on the screen, you can scan that code and sign up, and you can trade futures. I will be bringing more information about trading futures and show you how it's awesome. One of the awesome things about trading futures is, have you ever wanted to trade but you don't want to trade in and out of your XRP? Well, taking a small amount of money and trading futures can give you a large amount of profits from the trading and give you an activity that you can do and have fun with. And I can show you how it's totally safe. But if you want to get interested, if you want to get some more information about it, scan the link that's on the screen. Go ahead and sign up, and there's information on there too. And then over the next few weeks, we'll be discussing it more. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with today's content. So look at this post by Jack the Rippler. Breaking: the SEC just published a document mentioning the replacement of the SWIFT system with XRP. Wow, big news. XRP financial impact table. The source, it has listed here: source of capital, amount freed up, action to unlock funds. So it has what it is, how much it is, and what will replace it. U.S. Nostros accounts $1.5 trillion, replace SWIFT with XRP-based liquidity. Transaction fee savings $7.5 billion a year, shift global payments to XRP. So that would save them $7.5 billion a year. Wow. Federal payment cost reductions $500 billion over 10 years. The implement of XRP for IRS and Social Security payments. Capital for Bitcoin reserves $1.5 trillion. Direct investment into Bitcoin, BTC. What a phenomenal piece of news. Thought I would bring that to you. That's I don't know when it came out, but Jack the Rippler, he posted this 1 hour ago, and today it's 5:45 p.m. Today. So I thought I would bring that to you. Now let's look at something else. Here's a closer look at the report: comprehensive proposal, XRP as a strategic financial asset for the United States. And then you can see here this particular form. We just went over some of these. Globally, by the way, Nostro Vostro accounts hold $27 trillion. How much of that is XRP going to get a piece of? $5 trillion for the U.S. Pretty phenomenal. That is just pretty phenomenal. Addressing the SEC and DOJ conflict, XRP legal clarity pathway. The action: classify XRP as a payment network, not a security. Responsible, the SEC would do that. The recommendation: official clarification and settlement with Ripple. Remove DOJ restrictions for banks. DOJ legal clearance for XRP-based transactions. And then a mandate XRP for bank liquidity solutions, the Federal Reserve OCC, direct integration into financial policy. And phase regulatory clearance 3 to 6 months, SEC settlement, DOJ legal clearance. Man, this could just be, the show before the show whenever they get the lawsuit settled. There's a couple avenues on how that could go. Here's something else very interesting. Did you know there's been 17 filings for XRP ETFs? Freaking amazing. Bitwise, Grayscale, 21 Shares, Core, Canary Capital, Wisdom Tree, CoinShares. You see them all here. I'm not going to read them all. But look at that. 17 different filings for ETFs. Now just imagine how many XRP, if all of these were approved, which they probably won't all be approved, but imagine, say 10 of them are approved. Imagine how many XRP will be tied up in the ETF, taken basically off the market for cross-border transactions. It will be removed from there because it'll be busy being an ETF. And that shrinking supply, that ever-shrinking supply of XRP, more and more and more I see where this asset is going to go to the moon. There's no way around it. Once you see all of these things are taking place, it's like, what else can you say? I mean, these are not dreams. These are actual filings. These are people taking steps. The government's mentioning XRP. The President of the United States is mentioning XRP and other digital assets. The revolution of XRP coming to the whole world is here. We have all kinds of things going on, for instance, with the BRICS nations. The BRICS nations are needing to be able to adopt something other than a currency, other than the United States, other than the U.S. dollar, because Trump came out and said, what did he say, 100% tariffs if they even thought about it. Look at this.
Why is it needed? Because the current international system of payment, so-called SWIFT, is under control of the West, the US and other Western countries. And they have used this SWIFT system to impose sanctions and restrictions on countries they do not like. So we as BRICS are well advised to move forward into creating an alternative to SWIFT. And that's what the Russian authorities, together with other BRICS countries, are pursuing right now.
The BRICS nations just did the unthinkable. Despite direct warnings from the United States, they are launching a new payment system aimed at dethroning the dollar. And they're not backing down. Former President Donald Trump made it clear. Any country attempting to replace the US dollar in global trade would face severe economic retaliation, 100% tariffs, a complete cutoff from American markets, a financial war. But here's the catch. BRICS isn't just ignoring the warnings, they're accelerating their plans. Brazil, as the current BRICS president, is leading the charge, spearheading a system that could reshape international trade. A system that bypasses SWIFT, a system that eliminates the dollar from transactions altogether. And if it works, it won't just be a payment system, it'll be a financial revolution. For decades, the US has wielded the dollar like a weapon. Sanctions, trade restrictions, financial pressure, all enforced through the dollar's global dominance. But BRICS is pushing back. China and Brazil are already settling trade in their own currencies. Russia and Iran have integrated their banking networks. India is buying Russian oil with rupees. This isn't just talk. This is happening.
The BRICS had planned on that payment system that was briefed in that video before Trump had said what the result would be. So I don't know what the conclusion is there. I don't think BRICS has mentioned anything ever since Trump made that statement, and they're gonna screw around and find out, aren't they? And it would really crush those countries if we just cut everything off, 100% tariff on everything. So I don't believe that'll happen. However, it does bring up an interesting point that RLUSD or other stable coins, that the United States has passed a regulation saying they have to be backed by U.S. Treasuries. Well, that's in support of the dollar. So where we had an oil-based dollar, basically, this would make the treasuries, this would make the stable coins backed by U.S. Treasuries, which is interesting because it would undergird the whole financial system. And you have companies like, a lot of controversy, people very passionate about Tether is going to die. Not so fast. I think they have more U.S. treasuries than whole countries. They have a ton of treasuries. So they're probably not going to go away because the United States, don't you think, would see that as a tremendous asset. They are basically promoting the dollar. So they'll probably get their regulation things straightened out is what I believe, because there's way too much money there for that to just vanish and go away. But long story short, the stable coins will be supporting the U.S. dollar, whereas the deal with Saudi Arabia, which isn't being honored anymore, that deal's over, where all the countries had to buy all of their oil with U.S. treasuries. Well, there are already other countries purchasing oil without U.S. currency. And look at this post. This is interesting. I'll read it and silence the audio of the video while it's playing. To implement the CBDCs, the time pressure as quickly as possible to do something against this impending collapse. And of course, one will fall back on what is there. Ripple is there with its offer, and when it's time and the time is right, then Ripple can definitely become the world reserve bridge currency. And if that is the case, can you delete this and add 4 or a 5? I guess it would be prudent to read the description of the post. CEO of a German VC firm explains how XRP will become the world's reserve bridge currency, with Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin marking the first step in tokenizing the US dollar and digitizing all the money in the world as each country issues its national currency on XRPL. And then there was some figures on here, and he was talking about adding several more zeros, to that figure. But it just goes to show you that the world's attention is on Ripple, is on RLUSD and XRP and XRPL as a solution for Earth. And that's pretty phenomenal. Saudi Arabia signed with Russia for military protection. And so even though we're still under probably obligation from our side until it's officially terminated, that'll probably be not terminated, but that whole deal will probably be massaged by Trump. We also had Saudi Arabia just do some tremendous statements about how much money they're going to invest in the United States. So already that's looking better than it did under Joe Biden. But long story short, RLUSD would be an option for the BRICS nations. Stablecoins would be an option where they're not using the SWIFT system, because it's the use of the SWIFT system that weaponized the dollar. So if you pull it out of the SWIFT system and give it to something like stablecoins, all of the transactions, you'll have perfect record, and you won't have control by the West to impose sanctions and other things. So very interesting, very bullish for XRP. Hey, I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you next video.